Okay. Real quickly, just want to check. All right. Now, so quick review because we're not going to change anything. We're just going to add to it. We were solving one-step equations by doing inverse operations. Okay. And we're going to continue to do that. But like I said, life is messy. We don't always get these nice numbers. Sometimes they'll be integers. You'll have negatives and positives. And sometimes they won't even be integers. Sometimes you'll get fractions. Sometimes you'll get decimals. We've already touched on a little bit with the fractions, but we'll even deal with them a little more than that. Okay. Um, so I'm going to turn the page. So I'm going to start on a clean page, but we're still solving equations. So there's no need to, there will be no need to clear some room here. There is not going to be any need to add anything to the table of contents. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be solving equations with rational coefficients. So let's write that down. Equations with rational coefficients. Okay. Like I said before, you may want to, and I would highly recommend this, get a calculator. Okay. Get a calculator either on your phone, if you have a calculator, or you can use the internet, Google basically. But that would come in pretty handy. Now, the word rational. What does the word rational mean? Can someone help us out, please? I'm throwing out a lifeline. What does the word rational mean? We've talked about it before, rational numbers. What are rational numbers? Ratio, okay. We're thinking. Good job, Hamilton. Ratio, what does that mean? What do you think of when you think of the word ratio? What do we think of? What type of numbers involve ratios? When you have a ratio, you have a what? Yeah, you'll have decimal numbers for sure. Decimal numbers for sure. Or fractions, correct. So what we're going to deal with are when our coefficients are decimals and fractions. Okay? Because that's going to be a part of life. It's going to be part of solving these equations. So this is going to have when we have decimals and fractions. Decimals and fractions, for sure. Okay? And there's no magic trick to this. It's just using your knowledge of decimals and especially fractions in the context of solving equations in what we've been doing already. Okay? So let me just give you an example. Okay? So the easiest way to do these is just solve them. So we're going to solve. So go ahead and write in solve. And let's get to it. Let's solve. So let's say 3.2 times n equals 25.6. Go ahead and write that down. 3.2 times n equals 25.6. Now, think about this, guys. We are multiplying. What would I do to solve this equation? What would I do to solve this equation? Divide. So remember how we showed division? We're going to do a pro move here. We don't use a division symbol. We use a fraction bar. And we divide by 3.2. Okay? 3.2. There it is. And you cancel. Right? So I divided 3.2 over 3.2. It still makes 1. That still makes 1. So basically it becomes 1 times n, and that's just n. Now, this is where the calculator comes in handy. And some of you have already done it and got the answer, but I just want to make sure everyone can follow. 25.6 divided by 3.2. Sometimes you get an ugly decimal answer, but in this case, we just get the answer 8. We get the answer 8. So this is our claim. Okay. Well, Michael, just follow along with us. If you don't have a calculator, like I said, you can always type it into Google, and you would do 25.6 slash slash 3.2 rather, and it would do the division for you there. Okay, now, one thing that we have been neglecting, but I want us to do is a check. Okay, so we're going to check. So go back to your original equation, and we're going to multiply 3.2 times 8. And let's check what we get. So would you do me a great big favor? Multiply 3.2 times 8, the number we believe is the answer. Oh, it's giving me answers. Those fractions. I don't want fractions. I want decimals. Okay, I want decimals. So I get 25.6. I get 25.6. And that is what I want. I want to get that answer. It checks out. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Shall we do another one? Any questions, though? Okay. So I'm just going to, right next to it over here, I'm going to see if I could fit in this next problem. Number 2. And this is negative 4.5x equals 18. Let's try this one. Again, it's multiplying, so we do the inverse. Okay, and we have a coefficient. The number being multiplied with x is the coefficient. So let's divide. What do we divide by? What number do I need to divide by? Negative 4.5, correct. Yes, a negative 4.5. You divide or multiply by the exact same number that you want to eliminate. Okay? And that should give us an answer. So now, on my handy dandy calculator, we'll let it do the heavy lifting. We're going to do 18 divided by negative 4.5. Oh, let me try that again. 18 divided by negative 4.5. And I get negative 4. Okay, so my claim is it's negative 4 as the answer. That's what I believe to be true. We really can't tell until we check. Okay, I got to show it in the notes though. So let's do the check. So I have negative 4.5 times negative 4. I like to use parentheses to show multiplication. And you do that on your calculator. You should get an answer of 18. Let's just double check. Negative 4.5 times negative 4. You get positive 18. Checks out. Any questions? That's not too bad, right? When you have what do you call it, decimals, you could do those all day. Okay, so where it gets a little trickier, and it always does, just because we're out of practice with it, is when we have fractions. Okay, so we're going to do a few more, but with fractions, if you don't mind. Okay, so we're going to move away from decimals. I think we're good. Same operation. You'll have a calculator, hopefully, or Google. But let's concentrate more on fractions in these situations, okay? Sorry, I said the G word and my phone wants to be overly helpful. Okay, number 3. Okay, so we already did a few like this, but we'll do a few more. Let's say we have 1/8 times m equals negative 24. 1/8 times m equals negative 24. Now, I want us to do this a little bit differently. Okay? I want us to do this a little differently. We want to get rid of this 1/8, right? So that m is isolated by itself. That's our goal. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal. Did anyone ever learn this technique? Multiply by the reciprocal? I did. Okay. Good. A few of you have. What is the reciprocal of 1/8? What is the reciprocal of 1/8? 8 ones. So over here, I'm going to put 8 over 1. But whatever I do on one side, I do to the other. Okay? So I've got 1/8 m equals negative 24. I'm multiplying on both sides of my equation by 8 ones. Here's why. 8 in the numerator, 8 in the denominator. What do they do? What do they do when you multiply one in the same number in the opposite? They cross cancel. Yeah. And the ones cross cancel, but we don't need to. Okay. So basically, they cross canceled. I have 1. If you notice, that makes 1. Whenever you multiply reciprocals with each other, they make 1. So 1 times m is m. Well, I have an m here. Now on the other side, let's see what we get. If I multiply negative 24 times 8 ones, what do I get? Negative 192 ones. Okay, let's write that down. So what I think you're doing, and that's a good technique, you've been taught well, you're multiplying numerator with numerator, and you give the integer a denominator, and you multiply those, and you end up with negative 192 over 1. Or simplify that, since the denominator is 1 to negative 192. Okay? And that's our claim. Now, there's only one way we can be sure, right? We have to do a quick check. So go to your original equation, 1/8 times negative 192. And see if that equals negative 24. Okay. I lost my calculator here. Okay, here we go. Let me clear that. So I got 1/8. 1 divide 8. That's 1/8 basically. And I'm going to multiply that by negative 192. And let's see what that gives us. Oh, I guess I can't do it that way. Oh, how rude. Oh, that's right. This calculator is a little different from the other one I use. Let me try that again. So I'm going to do oh, 1/8 times negative 192. And it's negative 24. There it is. That's right. My other calculator that I've used, if you do 1 divide 8, it automatically makes it a fraction. Okay? If you do this on Google and you type in 1/8, parentheses, negative 192, you would get the correct answer. And it's negative 24, which is what I wanted, right? I want negative 24 as my answer. Checks out. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Then, if there are no questions, let's do the next one. Okay, you ready? Think about what we just did, multiplying by the reciprocal, and we're going to try that on number 4. Number 4 is the following. 3/7 times k equals 63. Okay, go ahead and write that down. 3/7 times k equals 63. Okay, so write that down. We want to solve this. This is multiplying. We want to eliminate our coefficient of 3/7. That coefficient needs to go so that k is by itself and we know the value of k. Okay? We want to do this by multiplying by the reciprocal. So tell me, give me an explanation in the chat. What should I do to solve this equation based on what we've been doing? Tell me what we should do. Okay. We want to multiply by the reciprocal, though. Technically, it's the same thing as dividing by 3/7. Multiplying by the reciprocal is the same as dividing by the straight up number. Okay? Yeah, we want to multiply by 7/3. Multiply by 7/3. Okay? Here's why. Whenever you multiply reciprocals, they make 1. And 1 times k is just k. So 7 cancels with 7. 3 cancels with 3. You're left with 1. And 1k equals just k. Now, over here, I'm going to make a denominator of 1. And we're going to multiply. Okay? We're going to multiply 63 times 7. So tell me, what is 63 times 7? Multiply 63 times 7, please. Let's see what we get. What do we get? 441. Thank you. We get 441. And then you multiply 1 times 3. Which is 3. So now what do I do? I got k equals 441 thirds. Does 3 go into 441? We want to see if we can do that. Yeah. Use your handy dandy calculator. What is 441 divided by 3? 147. Yeah. I know Hamilton was right, but we want to break down the steps. I know you were right. I just want to make sure everyone can follow. Okay. So there it is. And then we can do the check. So we're going to take our original equation, 3/7 times what we're saying K is, 147. And hopefully that gives us an answer of 63. Okay. So I'm going to try that here on my fancy schmancy calculator. So we want 3/7. We're going to multiply that by 147. And I get 63, which is what I wanted. Boom. Yes. Any questions? Okay. Now, the only other question I have is sometimes, not too often, but sometimes, we do have to deal with negatives with these things, those pesky negatives. So let's incorporate some negatives when we have rational coefficients that are fractions. Okay? So let's do that. Let's try number 5 then. And so for number 5, let's say we have this 2/5 G, 2/5 times G equals -2. Okay, go ahead and write that down. So ideally we want to divide, but another way to say divide is multiply by the reciprocal. So tell me, what should we do on both sides to eliminate this 2/5? Multiply by 5 2's. The reciprocal of 2/5 is 5 2's. 5 halves, if you will. Okay, let's do it. Cancel 5 with 5, 2 with 2. All goes away. We're left with just 1G, which is just G. On the other side, we have -2 1's times 5 halves. So here's where we have to think. Negative times a positive. What do we get? What's a negative times a positive? Negative. So that would be -10 2's. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay. And of course, we know that 2 goes into -10. So what's my final answer? What's -10 divided by 2? What are we going to get? -5. Well, that's not too bad. That was actually pretty easy. Well, hey, let's check it. Okay, we have 2/5. We want to multiply it by -5. And let's check to see that that equals, hopefully, -2. Okay, so once again, fancy calculator, do your thing. I'm going to say 2/5 multiplied by, oops, let me try again. 2/5 multiplied by -5. -5 is -2. So that checks out. I get a -2. Okay. All right. So far we're doing pretty good. In fact, I don't know that we need to go much further other than the following. Let's say, because it is going to happen, the hardest problem you will get is the following. Something like this. Number 6. I'm glad you guys like a challenge, because here it is. Negative, let's say we have -3/5 times b equals 3/35. Yeah, that should work out. 3/35. In fact, let's make it -3/35. Okay, so we got all kinds of stuff going on here. So -3/5 times b equals -3/35. It's about as challenging as we'll get. Double negatives.
Mister.
Yeah.
To come, when we multiply by the reciprocal, will the reciprocal be -5/3 or will it be +5/3?
Oh, I love your question. Yes. You know what? You read my mind. Are you a mind reader? Because that's the question I was going to pose to all of you. Let's discuss that. We're going to multiply this. Since I got a negative, I'm going to put a parentheses around that. I don't want to confuse it with subtraction. I want to multiply by the reciprocal here, right? On both sides. Now my reciprocal, should it be negative or should it be positive? What do you think? Let's think it through. And here's how I want you to think about it. When I multiply these two reciprocals, do I want a 1 or a -1? What do you think? When I multiply my reciprocals, do I want to end up with 1 or -1? I want to end up, Carmen says 1. Jaime says 1. I do want a positive 1. So what kind of number do I want here to multiply by so that I get a positive 1? Okay. Yeah, you want a negative because I have a negative here. I need to have a negative here. Bottom line is this. If your fraction is negative, the reciprocal will also be negative. Okay? The reciprocal must also be negative. So this is why I love this class, because you guys anticipate the difficult or the challenges that are going to come up in the problem. Okay? And you're curious about that. And that's great. I love that. Okay, so let's do this. Negative times a negative is a positive. I like that. And then I cancel. 5 with 5, 3 with 3. I get 1b, which is just b. And on the other side, well, I'm multiplying two fractions, right? Negative 3/35 times negative 5/3. So again, I'm going to have a positive. Negative times a negative. Okay. Victoria, how can I help you? You say you're confused. Tell me. Oh, you got confused. Now it's clear. Got it. Okay. Let's see here, guys. Can I reduce these fractions, make life a little easier? Can I do some cross canceling? If I can do that, I'd like to do that. Yeah, otherwise you get some big numbers that you got to divide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel, cross cancel. This is 1. This is 1. And I got 35 and 5 that I can cross cancel. 5 goes into both of them. So 5 goes into 5 once, so I get a 1. 5 goes into 35 7 times. Look at that. I cross canceled a bunch of stuff. And I get negative times a negative, positive. 1 times 1 is 1. 7 times 1 is 7. I get a final answer of 1/7. Okay. So I believe the answer is 1/7. Okay. Shall we check it? Let's check. Okay. So I have my original problem was negative 3/5. And we're going to multiply it by b, which we believe to be 1/7. Let's see what we get. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to take negative 3/5. We're going to multiply it by 1/7. And what did I do? Syntax error matching. Oh, I see what I did. Let me try again. I put the brackets in the wrong spot. Negative 3/5. Push it out. I forgot to do that last time. 1/7. Push it out. Close the parentheses. So this is what I'm multiplying. And it gave me this answer this way. But if I change it to decimal or change it to fraction, I get negative 3/35, which is what I started with. Boom. It's negative 3/35. I could have just multiplied across this way as well. There it is. Okay, that's about as hard as they get. Any questions? No. Okay, so we're good. I want to end the notes at this point. All right. So let me go over here. Where's my? There we go.